Hey everybody, what is going on? I am Maximus Rex. This is Big Baby Reviews. Check out my comics at kingcomics.ca. Check out my YouTube channel, King Comics 2021. Check out my Instagram, MaximusRex13, and check out my Facebook, Max Rex. Today is Sam Kieth Day. It is Tuesday, so we are looking at the next comic in my collection that he produced. We are done with the Max run. We looked at not quite 35 issues. You know, there's a few that were missing here and there, but we got up to 32. And this is the next thing that I have of his, which is this one shot that he put out in 1999. So a few years after the Max finished up. Seems like it took a while. On the back here, there's a message that says, "This issue is for all my patient friends on the mailing list who've stuck with me through thick and thin. Your bud, Sam." So maybe that's, to thank those people who were patiently awaiting this comic. I'm going to compare this to something that Quentin Tarantino said. I saw an interview with him recently where he's talking about the difference between movies and TV series. He says both have their value, but what happens with a TV series is like you get into the minutia of the characters, right? And, every episode adds on to that character, but really there's not that much that changes overall over a season or a whole series, right? And he's like, when you watch a movie, well, all that's condensed into an hour and a half, 2 hours, or these days 3 hours, but something like that, right? So what ends up happening is that basically, the movie format becomes more memorable, as opposed to the TV series where you watch, episode upon episode. And there's a lot of repetition, and like I said, you learn little quirks about the characters and stuff, but you remember the characters and their quirks, but not the specific moments from the TV show necessarily. Or less so than when you watch a movie. And a movie will stick with you, and certain scenes will stick with you more permanently than a TV series. And I think he's kind of right to a certain extent. I get what he's saying. And why am I talking about this? Because I think it applies to comic books as well. So if we take kind of his analogy and what he's saying, the Max is kind of the TV series and Legs is kind of the one shot, the movie, right? So I gotta say, as kind of a one deal, one shot kind of thing, this really does stay with me longer than the whole of the Max series. The Max series, the art stays with me, right? Certain moments of the Max, the pose, crouched over something, his arms hanging with the legs out and everything, like that stays with me, and that's about it. The whole series itself, not really my thing. So this here is much more, like I said, my thing, probably because of its format. Once again, it's condensed, it's one story, one and done, like a movie, and it's just more memorable. It's also simpler, right, in the storytelling, and less convoluted over a whole series of 35 comics rather than just this one simple, and again, one-shot comic. So starting with the cover, of course, you get some of those Kieth tropes. First of all, he's using multimedia all throughout this comic as well. The art is similar, I would say, to what he was doing on the Max. He's, like I said, pen and ink, being assisted by Jim Sinclair once again, and throwing in some paint and mixed media and different things in there once in a while, right? So he's still got that slightly illustrative look with a bit of roughness around the edges, which I think is amazing and I love. There will be more examples on the inside of that. So a very kind of painterly cover here, and you've got the big feet that Sam Kieth loves to draw, and very similar to the Max in these using circle designs on the leg, like in the original Max series. I don't know what those were. They were like strapped in donuts or something, or rings. I guess it was meant to be like, I was assumed it was like some sort of brass ring or metal ring or something. Not quite sure what it was. Here though, as we get into close-ups on Legs, you'll see that it's basically like nuts and bolts and gears and stuff, which is cool. And you'll notice he has no arms, and he has an odd face, obviously kind of a Kieth monster, just like the Max was to a certain extent. Bit of a kind of dinosaur or crocodile kind of look to his face. Although he, the mouth doesn't come down all the way here. That's his chin there. And basically what he is a living engine, right? Or some sort of, animal engine hybrid. Very odd, Sam Kieth, right? But totally fits within his aesthetic, obviously. And a very singular character that could really only come from his mind. So again, loving Sam Kieth art, and this being just a simple, concise story. I think this is a really great one-shot. We'll get into it. Want to throw out there that this kind of feels a little bit like a bit of an E.T. inspiration, or at least that theme, right, of the persecuted stranger from somewhere else, right, E.T., and in this case it'll be Legs, on a much smaller scale, though. And it kind of has that Spielberg vibe to it a little bit. And, would probably make a really good short movie or maybe full length, I'm not quite sure, but like a half hour to, half hour shows now are probably actually 22 minutes, right? Take advertisements out, or Netflix, I guess, doesn't follow that format anymore. Anyways, I'm rambling on. Let's have a look at the actual comic, and I'll go through the story as we look at the art. The beautiful, beautiful Sam Kieth art. Story and art, Sam Kieth. Color, Richard Eisenow. The only difference in the creative team as opposed to the Max. The Max had Steve Oliff coloring that. Finishes, Jim Sinclair. So Jim Sinclair helping with inks, I guess, and background stuff. As per usual, lettering, calligraphics, film output. I've never really understood exactly what that is. There must be parts there where they shoot stuff on film before digitizing it, right? As old publishing stuff used to be on camera, on film. On camera. That makes no sense. On film. So basically what we have is a story of a young boy and his father, and his father works at Joe's garage, and they're all into cars and stuff, right? And here they kind of talk about, at the beginning of the story kind of starts and just finishes with the same kind of concept. It's kind of bookended, right? It's a pretty classic storytelling trope. And again, this story is not meant to like impress you or anything. It's just simple. It's not convoluted. Short story, So they're all into cars, and when you're a teen, you're into hot rods, and then when you're an adult, you kind of go more for the power and the prestige, and then when you're an older man, you kind of just go for the cool old sports model, and the father's kind of describing to the son that's it's a metaphor for men who age, right, basically, and who are into cars. And so we're introduced to them and working at Joe's garage here, and basically this kid has kind of crafted a skateboard with an engine, so he rides around on that. But of course, you got the town bullies, their fathers buy them like big, powerful vehicles, and they just zoom on by here. Why don't you suck on this? As they, instead of just kind of, this kid put an engine on the skateboard. That's pretty ingenious. But again, it's like, a bit of Robert Zemeckis, Back to the Future kind of bullying. And basically what happens is the kid near where he lives, out in the desert, because it seems like with the backgrounds and stuff and, car culture and stuff, driving around where it's dry, right? All the hot rods. So near the town, there was like a dam, and they actually, they drained the lake, right? And they found a ghost town. Well, they had actually, I guess, pushed people out of the town or gotten people out of the town and flooded this whole area, and the town stayed conserved under the water. Now that they've drained the lake, well, he goes and explores and goes into one of the old garages here, and that's where he finds what he at first thinks is maybe an engine, right? At first I thought it was some kind of engine, some weird engine, excuse me, but then boom, we're introduced to Legs in the comic. Another great shot. His name is Legs. He doesn't actually have arms. These exhaust pipes, I love all the texture. And then the fact that he's not afraid. This is all pretty like, he's trying to reproduce reality. He's being illustrative, almost photoreal to a certain extent. And then he'll just go with that thick line around it and leave kind of extra bits and dirty it up. And that's what I admire with Sam Kieth. I'm sure he could draw very kind of classically and super clean and style and slick is the word I'm looking for. But he'll do some slick stuff and then throw in some grit, which I love, and it works really well. And the fact that, like I said, the engine bits are kind of always kind of in silhouette, and you just kind of a few pistons here. He doesn't have to draw too much, and you kind of buy it, right? And I think it works. And the big feet also help, like the claws, the toes, but also help to convey the idea that obviously he's big, powerful, muscular legs coupled with the engine. It's going to make him go really fast, right? He seems built for speed. So kid gets on, tries to hop a ride, and he's not quite sure how this works, but eventually Legs just snorts in some air, and off he goes. And I love the visual representation of kind of the speed and the sound, and again, trying to convey this idea of an engine that runs. It's a pretty kooky concept, and only Sam Kieth could come up with it and make it work. And I think it definitely works here. The visual representation of it, the speed looks cool here. I like this whole thing where he used some sort of blur and distortion here. This is more digital, right? And this is more Sam Kieth actually doing a lot of mixed media here. And these are the nuts and bolts that, Sometimes I wonder, I think it's all painted, but I can't be 100% sure. Sometimes I wonder if some of these aren't actual collage that he just glues onto his painting. I wonder. Maybe some are painted and some are glued on. I don't know for sure. But with something like that, that's what I think would require the film output, right? They would have to take pictures of this before actually importing it digitally. Or they were doing that at the time. So kid gets back, stashes legs for the moment, right? Hides them under the car here. And lies in wait for a while until a few nights later, daddy's like, hey, what are you hiding under here? And discovers legs. Doesn't freak out so much, surprisingly. But he's been trying to, he doesn't feel very good. And he's trying to figure out what he needs to eat. And they're saying, he's brought him dog biscuits, but he won't eat those. And then starts chomping down on the tools, basically. So seems like he eats tools or eats metal, this guy's. Love the silhouette shot here that Sam Kieth pulls off. Looks really cool. Very evocative of the type of environment that they're in. The tree, everything. Love this shot here. And the coloring's pretty smooth as well. So these buttholes, the guys from earlier, the kind of town bullies, come trying to steal the battery from this car here at night. And it's the car that Legs is under. So he sees their wrench here, smells it, and takes a bite because, it's food to him. And bites this guy's hand. And them rats is big around here. So they, for the moment at least, assume it's a rat. But it's actually this guy Legs. So I guess this kid's riding Legs around. And he goes dumpster diving while Legs is hanging out. Right here in the background. And he's in the dumpster here. And he gets out and realizes that Legs eaten about half this Lamborghini. So they better get out of there, right? And of course, the Lamborghini is owned by the father of one of these two bullies here. And that's what they realize, it's probably the kid who's done this, right? So they go to his dad's garage and they discover Legs. So they take Legs and strap him into their hot rod here. And as I'll just read the dialogue, driving that jet fuel injector into his flesh ought to boost the power too. Hey Scrubs, this thing's sweating like a pig. You sure all this stuff isn't gonna hurt it? Enrique, I keep telling you it's not alive. It's a fucking machine. Or you get it and you gotta drive it hard. So no respect for this poor creature by these guys, right? They just see it as another tool for their car. And of course, Legs himself basically makes the car crash here and is able to escape. And he's, the police are asking, now come on, where's your engine? It didn't exactly get up and walk away now, did it? And there you see Legs walking away in the background there. Arriving back at home, very beat up. And of course, the bullies aren't going to just leave it at that. So that's where it's got that kind of Robert Zemeckis, Steven Spielberg kind of vibe, Back to the Future bullies, typical movie bully. And they come back and they start beating up literally on this creature. They're pretty sadistic guys. So they start beating on Legs here. Womp womp, sob. So he's kind of whimpering or crying here. Kid comes to the rescue with a skateboard. Or coming to the rescue anyways. And they actually start, trying to ram him into the wall with the truck here. And crushing him, right? Again, kid comes to the rescue. Pulls out the fuel injector. Legs jumps into action here. Starts pushing up against the truck. Eventually gets up on the hood here. They're in trouble. Art-wise, let's stop here. One more great shot of Legs and that painterly kind of mixed media stuff he's doing here. Again, the bolts, I'm not quite sure. Some up close, some of these, like I said, they seem like actual things stuck onto the board. Unless he's really applying a lot of painterly technique, going kind of rough on the edges and stuff and doing that typical Sam Kieth stuff. And then when doing the gears, just being very precise and painterly. Anyone have any information on that? Let me know in the comments. There's a switch here from the painted multimedia kind of style of Sam Kieth to just some pen and ink here, but I feel like the color's still kind of modeling and following what he's doing here on what Sam Kieth was doing with the paint. So eventually, Legs able to push this truck away and starts running. Kid's on his back. And for some reason, they just almost crash into the pole here, like before, but they don't. Unfortunately, the police are still on their way, so they do, and kind of smush his truck there. So again, simple, funny, concise storytelling. A bit of sympathy there for Legs, obviously. And a bit of a sad bit, kind of like when E.T. has to go back home. And again, there's kind of the parallel with E.T.'s that Legs gets tired here, you know. Hey, you okay? Cough. There's my answer, huh? You're just too much power for a kid like me. Please don't die. I'm sorry I didn't take care of you like I should have. It's all my fault. I'm sorry. So it's kind of ambiguous as to whether or not he dies here. I'll leave it up to you when I get to the end of the page here. Dad, is Legs dead? Well, let's just say he needs an overhaul. It's time we put him back into the earth. Excuse me, where you found him. Will he be okay, Joe? He's slept in this spot since before you were born. Next month, this whole lake will put him hundreds of feet underwater. He's back where he belongs now. And, you know, they walk off, but you do get a last shot of here of Legs' eye that's open. So I'm assuming that's to give the reader a little bit of hope that, you know, he's not dead. He's just lying dormant, just like when this kid found him originally. And like I said, the bookend, we get those same three cars. The kid kind of reminiscing, now he's a bit older, about what his dad had told him. And him older today looking at these cars. So nice bookend to the whole story. Excuse me, this is the last shoot. I got a hoarse voice. So there you have it, guys. There's the review for Legs by Sam Kieth. A nice, quick, one and done one shot. Heartwarming characters, you know, sympathetic creature a la E.T. And just simple, clear, fun storytelling. Definitely recommend that to you guys. And any fan of Sam Kieth. If I have to compare again between the Max and this, I do prefer this overall, even though the body of work is much smaller, obviously, than 35 issues of the Max. There you have it, guys. That's my review for today. Thank you so much. If you are subscribed and you're still watching the videos, I really appreciate it. If you're not subscribed, but you are watching videos, how about you hit subscribe below? It only takes a second for you. Really helps the channel out, helps us grow, helps get us out there to other people who are into the same kind of things that we are, namely comic books. So everyone out there, thank you for watching and have an awesome day. King Comics presents Big Baby, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 13. 204 pages of story and art. King Comics also presents Star Crasher one-shot, 32 pages, cosmic sci-fi surrealist adventure. You can find these fine comics at kingcomics.ca, at MaximusRex13 on Instagram, or on Facebook, MaxRex or Big Baby.
Like! Subscribe!